still quite new. Like, Facebook haven't been around that long, all things considered. So I think we're just learning as we go, like, oh, what is actually, I think I read somewhere it's like people comparing the data is the new oil, that is equivalent, like, hey, we want your data. This is the new thing that we want to trade with, right? So go ahead.
I'm in sync with you. You know something, and because that's exactly what happens. These companies are making so much money based on what you do daily, your actions, what you view. It's almost like your privacy is there for sale. And guess how much money you make? Zero. So to me is how much do we value our privacy? How much do we value the things that we do, right? And why haven't we been able to really negotiate about to these companies about like, hey, you're making billions of dollars, right? And yes, I'm using your platform, but you're making so much money out of it. You say that it's free, but it's not free. It comes with a price tag. That price tag is you're making money off of my actions. Do you think people really view it that way, or they're just like, oh, we're naive and say, oh, it's free, but it's really not. It's a business.
Oh, when I got Facebook and Instagram, it was a lot less ads. I mean, even if you go to websites like, Reddit and stuff, you see a lot of ads. That's, I think, become the problem where we're just bombarded with all these ads all the time, and that's how they make the money. Like, I get really annoyed because I'm like, I just want to go to this website where it's like 3 pop-ups and you asking about information and data. But I think a lot of people just don't read it, except terms of use, right? Who in their mind actually reads the terms of use? No one does. And we just click, yes, I accept, and that's it. But it's also designed to be like super long and, fine, like written in a way that it's like, oh, I can't be bothered, I don't understand anyway. So I think people, like, they also use that against you. Like, they know you're not gonna read it, so technically they can do whatever you want, and you can't do anything about it, essentially. I think, wasn't there a case where someone passed away at Disneyland, and someone had, they had to accept like a Disney Plus subscription, and then somewhere in there they said you can't sue us. It's like all these kind of things. They know that you're not going to read it, so but it's still your responsibility. So I feel like hopefully there should be a better way to make it easier for the average consumer to just understand what exactly is going on.
I'll jump in, Autumn. I know that you were talking about that Disney incident.
Yeah.
No, it's crazy because, like, when I speak about this to certain individuals, they think I'm crazy, and they're like, "Oh, they're not stealing our data. You're crazy." But I'm like, no. And I think like certain companies, they kind of ride on like the inability to like pay attention of certain people, and some people close to me, like, they do not pay attention to any of that. They accept all the cookies every single time. And when I warn them, they just are like, oh, okay, like, we've had enough of hearing from you about this topic. But I do think like we all have a choice. And I've had a coworker who gave up having a phone. They would just ride a bike everywhere. And they were just like, no more, I'm not selling any more of my data. So I do think like we do have a choice, right? Like we enjoy like social media, we enjoy having the internet at our fingertips, but it does come at a price, because we could just throw our phones in the river and just like, live every day not knowing and having that instant access. So yeah, I just think it's really interesting. Like, how do we build like a trust with these companies? Because we truly don't know what they're doing with our data. It is like an experiment. Like, they are tracking everything that we are doing. It's so interesting. So it's like, what is the cost of like wanting to be in trendy, like with the latest trends of the society, versus like just living a free life? I don't know. So
that's what I like about the GDPR is like they have to scramble so you're anonymous. Like, you can't just sell this like, oh, I got this data from Wendell, now I'm gonna sell it to some random company so they can try to like bombard him with ads or anything. So I do think that's a good approach. At least like the European Union has enforced it, and that sort of forces all the companies, like, if you want to have this working in our countries, you just have to adhere to it. Hopefully like that's going to be something going on in the future as well. Same thing with the USB-C. Like now all the Apple phones have to have USB-C because they decided like, no, we don't want to have cables or everything, so you're just gonna do it. So, I think those like I think it just takes, people to just push for this, like what is the best for our citizens, what is the best for the environment. But obviously, they want to make it inconvenient for you to not pay attention. Because when you read like a legal document, you're gonna buy a house or anything, they give you a couple papers and they're gonna be like, here's a book, and you just read it. It doesn't take that long because you have to understand it. It's not like we're gonna call a lawyer, like, can you read this terms of use so I can sign up for Netflix? No one's gonna do that.
Yeah, that's funny. Like, imagine you calling at 1 o'clock in the morning. Hey, Esquire, I need your help on these terms. Can you? They'll be like, they'll hang on you. Go ahead, Kevin. I'm sorry.
I found it so interesting. Like, they only give you two options: accept or decline. And I always wonder what happens if they add in the third option. You get to choose now which ones they get to collect, right? Or which ones you don't want to be collected. There isn't like, it's either like you have this road or this road, and there's a block in between. If you don't want to accept this road, then you can't use it. So the corporations, it's kind of like a trap setup. Like, let's say I wanted to watch Nemo on Disney, and they don't have it on YouTube, and I don't want to pirate it off the internet. All right, so I got a Disney Plus subscription, but then I had to accept all these terms without a choice of like, oh, I can't sue Disney if I die in their dip park. So it's so hard when they don't give you that choice. It's only one path or another path. I think something that could bring trust to corporations is adding that choice in between, and they are pioneering the data industry. There's layers. It's a layering above our world of the internet, and it's just starting off new. And you have these big players that are taking big segments of it. Like, their platforms have a lot of people in it, more than what they can in the physical world. And they're tracking us like dots on a map. Like, hey, you just went over to Google, now you went over to Facebook, and then you went over to a blog that talks about food. Now you're on Instagram, and now they sell you an ad about food blogs. And it's like, okay, where the heck did the food blog come from when I just clicked on just one website about food, right? So it's very interesting. And I use ads too, as a person who pays for ads to be placed on people's stuff. I use it. It's interesting. It works, right? It works a little bit. It gets me out there, but it sucks because it has to be paid, and it's not like at the organic rate yet, but it's a useful tool sometimes, and it's going to more eyes. But at the same time, I just wish it wasn't like off like when I had to put in the stuff, I do key interest and keywording, like hip hop clothing, or like clothing brand, or like apparel. Like, it's just like keywording some stuff. So if somebody searched up hip hop clothing, they'll probably see my site or see my designs up on their feed somewhere. It's useful. Is it ethical? That's the question, right? Is it ethical? It's so hard.
I get lost in values of great cities that give vacuum.